Welcome to the April meeting of the Dallas branch of ASCE. I'm Julie Jones, the Dallas branch president. I would like to extend a welcome to all of our members, guests, and all of those joining us around the state. I also want to thank all of the Dallas branch board and committee chairs, along with our speaker, to make this meeting possible. It has made all of us think outside of our normal way of conducting the meeting. This has also gotten us to brainstorm ideas on how to do other remote initiatives, so be on the lookout for more virtual events happening at the branch level. While we've had to adjust methods and cannot meet in person, the ASCE meeting is part of our normal monthly routine. We still wanted to give our members an opportunity to learn about a great project and have a PDH opportunity. I hope you and your families are doing well through these trying times, and if you need anything, please email any of us, and we'll do what we can to help out. Also, on a note of helping out, if you have any PPE that the hospitals can use, I'm sure the local hospitals would appreciate the donation. Please see the Texas section email for more information. Another item from the Texas section is the Texas Section Awards. These award nominations are due May 15th. Last year, the Dallas branch represented well in these awards, so please nominate those who have had a great impact of the civil engineering field and in their communities as a whole. There will be no scholarship raffle this month. We'll return to having them when we can meet in person. I also want to thank our sponsor for this month, LA Fleece. Now we'll have our other announcements, the sponsor presentation, and then the main speaker presentation. After the main speaker, I will cover about how to get the PDH credit. Thank you for joining us.
This is Brad Russell, your Dallas Chapter ASCE Scholarship Chair, and I wanted to give you an update on this year's scholarship, the GB Man Scholarship. And this is a scholarship awarded to high school senior students who attend school in Dallas Branch region, which includes Collin, Cook, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Kaufman, Navarro, and Rockwell counties, and who will be attending an institution of higher learning in the 2020 fall semester in pursuit of a degree in civil engineering. The deadline for this scholarship application is 5 p.m. Friday, May 1st, 2020. And you can find information about this scholarship, both the application form and the reference forms, on the Dallas ASCE website, which address is dallasasce.org/branch_scholarships. And at the bottom of the application form gives you both a mailing address and an email address to submit the completed forms to. Good luck to all submissions, and I look forward to receiving a number of applications.
Hi, I'm Ozzy Gonzalez, our branch's fundraising chair. I would like to take a moment to ask you to consider becoming a branch sponsor. We still have sponsorship opportunities available at all the branch levels, and also for this year's joint meeting. If you are interested, please visit our website at dallasasce.org or email me at fundraising@dallasasce.org. It's because of this engineering community's generosity that we are able to keep going. We greatly appreciate all your support.
Hello everybody, Mark Boyd here. Warm greetings to all of my Dallas branch friends who know me as the current Dallas Board past president. I'm wearing another ASCE hat these days as the chair of the Texas Infrastructure Report Card Committee. The report card is on schedule to roll out by early 2021. Our subject committees are hard at work evaluating the condition of Texas infrastructure in 11 categories. I invite you to help us plan, coordinate, and prepare the report card with a narrative to support the assigned grade. Join our committee as a technical reviewer and subject matter expert, or as a project leader helping to compile and evaluate information from across the state. Committee work is underway, but we are still seeking a few volunteers to support committees in energy, bridges, solid waste, parks and recreation, roads and highways, and levees. We'll start you off with some preliminary orientation from ASCE National and the Texas section to get you prepared to hit the ground running with one of our active subcommittees. If you have any questions or want to jump right in with us in this important effort with an interesting and fun group of technical experts, just contact me at markboydasce@gmail.com. My mobile number is 214-770-6253, or Lindsay O'Leary, our Texas Section Executive Director, at loleary@asce.org. The last Texas report card was in 2017, so it's going to be another 4 years until you get another chance to volunteer. So take advantage of this special opportunity to serve your state and ASCE. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Stay safe, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your ASCE Dallas President-elect, Jonathan Brower, and I'm speaking to you today on behalf of LA Feast Partners. LA Feast Partners is proud to sponsor the ASCE Dallas branch for this month's virtual meeting, and I personally want to share that I am very proud of our branch leadership for continuing to press forward during this time in order to still provide value and benefit to our members. LA Feast Partners is a structural engineering firm specializing in the design of commercial, residential, institutional, and industrial buildings with offices in Dallas, Texas, and Boston, Massachusetts. We are currently celebrating 40 years of landmark projects and partnerships, and we are looking forward to working alongside many of you listening today for years and years to come. Our firm was founded with a vision based on trust, professionalism, and excellence of service. As structural engineers, we pursue innovative design solutions that contribute to the overall success of each project and benefit all team members. LA Feast Partners has served hundreds of clients throughout its history, including numerous architectural firms, Fortune 500 corporations, government entities, commercial and institutional development companies, public and private school systems, higher education institutions, and private property owners. Our relationships with many of these clients dates back to our earliest years as a firm. We understand that our ability to serve clients effectively rests on our understanding of the client's needs and concerns. We strive to understand each client's perspective and priorities and tailor our internal approach and processes to produce the most positive outcome. Quality of work and caliber of service define our place in the market. We are proud of the tradition of trust we have built. We will continue to meet the challenges of the future using the same foundation of enthusiasm, creativity, and professionalism that we brought to our first project 40 years ago. Thank you for attending today's ASCE Dallas virtual meeting, and as someone who cares very deeply for this branch and our membership, I want to encourage you to continue to support and empower our branch leadership as we move through these uncertain and changing times. We are here to serve you to the best of our abilities. Thank you. And I now want to hand it over to our president, Julie Jones, who will be introducing our main speaker.
Gary Thomas is the president and executive director of the Dallas Area Rapid Transit. He is responsible for a 13-city transit system covering 700 square mile service area with bus, light rail, commuter rail, and paratransit services. Under his leadership, DART has doubled its light rail system twice to become the nation's longest at 93 miles. The agency has been recognized for innovation in developing a progressive clean fuel program for its bus fleet, advancing new models for local bus and paratransit service, and customer-facing communication technology and service. DART is also a recognized leader in the global advancement of mobility as service movement with its use of targeted demand response transit services that matched with new customer tools for a fair payment and trip planning. Thomas administers the goals and policies of the DART Board and Directors and directs the agency's top managers and approximately 3,700 employees, emphasizing a strong customer focus. He works closely with service area city governments and the public in developing short and long-term transportation and mobility goals. Thomas joined DART in 1998. He was a consulting engineer for 19 years prior to that. He has a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering and a Bachelor of Architecture from Texas Tech University. He serves on the Transportation Research Board Executive Committee and Subcommittee on Planning and Policy Review for the TRB. He is past chair of the American Public Transportation Association, Railvolution, and Southwest Transit Association. Please help me welcome Gary to our meeting today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Julie, and it's great to be here today. This is a little different, certainly, than presentations in the past. So I'm excited to do this. So we'll see how it goes. As I was talking to Carlos earlier, we're talking about some of the TV shows, some of the late night TV shows now and how they're being filmed from home, and you get a little bit of a sense of people's personality and maybe where they are and what they're thinking right now. And so this is no different. I'm not sure this is going to be perfect today, so bear with us. But we'll lots of information, and we'll certainly get through it in a bigger perspective. than just this presentation. So I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody is staying safe and that you're able to work from home as well. And I'll talk a little bit about DART toward the end of the presentation as far as what we're doing, how we're being impacted, and what's going on in our world relative to buses and trains. Before I go there, though, I really want to talk a little bit about what we think the future of transit is. Now, the future of transit is going to take a little bit of a hit over the next maybe 30 months as we all adjust. And again, I'll talk about that more at the end, but as you look at transit agencies around the country, transit ridership is down nationwide, generally in the 70% range. And so you say, okay, who are our customers? And this really is a time when you have to reflect very seriously on who are your customers, who's riding the system. Certainly we have our reliant commuter, our customer that probably doesn't own a car for whatever reason. They probably are using the train or bus to get to work, to get to the hospital, to get to the grocery store. And that is more true than ever. So that 30% of the ridership, again, nationwide, is probably the reliant commuter. And in many cases, the person that works at an essential job or the person that has to take transit to get to the grocery store. And that's more evident now than it ever has been before. As we continue to look at our ridership spectrum, we've got our corporate commuter. We've got the person that traditionally would commute to work back and forth, and that's probably the only time they're riding the system. I was joking with someone the other day. Of course, before I started working from home, I would train most days on the Red Line back, and I parked at Bush Turnpike Station and would ride in. And so I would learn a lot about the people around me. And as I told some of the folks at Jacobs Engineering, a lot of people at Jacobs ride the train every day, and I would learn a lot about the projects they were working on at DART as they had their conversations. This will probably stop all that now, but the corporate commuter is a person that really is riding the train to and from, or the bus to and from work every day. The task rider is the customer that is really just going to fulfill a specific task. Maybe it is to go to the grocery store, and it's just easier to get on the train or bus to go to the grocery store, to the doctor, or something like that. And then the event rider. And I suspect many of you have been an event rider before, whether it's going to the State Fair of Texas, a hockey game, or a basketball game, or something like that, where you'll hop on the train. You don't want to mess with traffic. You don't want to mess with parking. And so you're the event rider. It's important that we understand all of our riders, because as we look to the future, while trains and buses are going to continue to be very important, even after COVID-19, our world is still changing. And so this is a busy slide, but bear with me for a minute as I really talk about DART's Mobility as a Service framework. So as you look at this chart and you really start to think about, what does our transportation world look like? Not next month, certainly, or next year, but maybe over the next 10 years, maybe the next 15 years. And as we know, our world in the transportation business has been rocked, certainly in the last 5 to 10 years. Uber didn't exist in Dallas before 2012. And so, you know, things have changed very, very quickly. And what we do know is that the one constant right now is change, certainly. But as you think about, where are we going to be as an agency? Where is our industry going to be as we look forward? Trains and buses will continue to be important. But I think it's really pulling all the different modes together. So if you look at the slide and you look at the upper left, it talks about mobility services, which means scooters, bikes, dynamic carpooling, car sharing, multimodal services, or transit services. And if you can see the yellow halos around those different circles, you can see those are the things that DART is already really involved in or really working on. and I'll go around this, but just to speak to how quickly this uh, changing, how dynamic this is. As we all know, bike sharing kind of came and it's already gone. And Dallas had 25,000 bikes in the bike share program, however many bike sharing companies there were. But we ramped up to 25,000 and they've all disappeared for all intents and purposes. So we know that this mobility services, especially the micro mobility services, are going to continue to evolve at a very, very rapid rate. It'll be interesting to see how the micro mobility industry survives this, because of course people aren't riding those scooters right now, and the dynamic carpooling isn't happening because of course you can't social distance. Transit continues to remain in effect, but for a much more limited group of people. And then you go to the lower left and you have apps and services, and that's Wi-Fi and smart payments, real-time information, those kinds of things. And again, we've already started to incorporate a lot of those. The lower right are connected service like automated vehicles, transit management plans, parking plans, and then P3 agreements or public-private partnerships. And oftentimes we think of public-private partnerships as design, construction, owner types of agreements, but in this case, it's really the TNCs, the Ubers, the Lyfts, the taxis, the paratransit companies. And you say, well, Gary, how do taxis fit into this? Well, the interesting thing is the taxi industry is desperately trying to find their spot in today's transit world. And the reality is, and we've really been able to take advantage of this, is there's a lot of taxi availability right now. So we're able to use taxis for a little bit more unique role in the transit spectrum. But the point is all of this has to come together. Communications, data hubs, system integrations, analytics, as that customer interfaces with all these different modes. So the trick is who's going to do that? Are we really going to expect our customer to try to sort through all these? That's not going to happen. The customer is going to pick whatever's the easiest, whatever's the most convenient, whatever suits their needs. So why wouldn't it make sense as the transit agency and transit provider for us to provide that single point of contact for our customers, so then they can figure out what their trip looks like, what it might mean to them, and how it might work. Wouldn't it be great, and some of you have heard me say this before, wouldn't it be great if there was an app that could do all of those things for you? If there was an app that you could go to and you said, look, today the most important thing to me is to get to wherever I am from where I am as quickly as possible. Or maybe you say, it's really today, it's about getting to where I need to be as in the most cost-effective manner possible. Or maybe you say, I really want to ride one of those scooters in the middle of my trip. I'm probably not going to do that, but there are certainly a lot of people, and a lot of you probably, that would. So wouldn't it be nice if there was an app that took all of those different modes and said, okay, here's a solution to your trip. You know, as we look at it, and certainly now, as we look at our world, even still, our expectations are that we can go online, we can order something, and even today, it will show up at our front door tomorrow or the next day, but pretty quickly. Transportation is no different. One of the real challenges for buses and trains is that when you go out to the train station or out to the bus stop, are you going to have to wait 20, 30, 40 minutes? If you do, odds are you're probably not going to do that unless you're one of those reliant customers, commuters, and you really don't have a car for, again, whatever reason, whether it's a choice or your income doesn't allow that to happen. So wouldn't it be wonderful if you could go to the app and you say, here are my personal criteria, here's what's important to me today, and tell me what my choices are. You know, we all love to see what our choices are. Is it going to take me this long, or is it going to take me this long, or is it going to cost me this much or this much? But then you can make an informed decision if you know what all your choices are. Now, the good news is you don't have to wait for that app. The app actually is already in existence. As a matter of fact, in 2013, we introduced our GoPass app. So 7 years ago, we introduced an app, and let me tell you just real quickly about the app. We started this because as many of you have been to other cities, you know they have smart cards. And you go up and you tap the card to get through the gate. And we don't have a gated system, obviously, but we thought for ease of our customers, we thought we want a smart card. And we started pricing what a smart card might cost for us and realized that we couldn't afford a smart card. For example, in some major cities around the country, at that time, 7 or 8 years ago, they were spending upwards of $300 and $400 million, $300 or $400 million to make that happen. We said, we can't afford that. So we said, an easy point of entry is mobile technology. We didn't realize that we were really ahead of the curve at that moment in time. We're really looking for a cheap entry into this market. So we got an app developer out of Copenhagen, and we said, this is what we want to do. And they developed the app. It debuted in I believe it was October of 2013. And you could plan your trip and you could buy a ticket on this app. And that's all it did at that time. I was on a panel not too long ago with the person that was really responsible for bringing Uber to the North Texas area. And after the panel was over, he and I started talking. We said, wouldn't it be cool if we worked together and figured out how we can marry up the two transportation choices. He was way ahead of his time. I certainly was ahead of my time. But as we talked about it, the joke kind of became, Gary, we really want to do this and we want it done by Friday. And of course, they're talking about this Friday. I said, we really want to do this and we'll have it done by Friday. And I'm thinking 2021 would be lightning speed for a public agency like us. So that's a little bit challenging. And we were coming at it from two very, very different cultural viewpoints. And over time, we've managed to get that a lot closer from that cultural perspective. But it's still a little bit challenging, but we've managed to do that. And again, in 2013, we didn't realize the power of the tool that we had literally in our hand. But over time, we did. And a couple of things, as we started to merge all of these technologies together, a couple of things that really dawned on us in 2018, and we modified the app in 2018 to reflect this, is first of all, not everybody has a credit card. Most of your apps today, certainly your transportation apps, require you to tie a credit card to that particular app. We said that's great unless you don't have a credit card or you don't trust that a credit card could be tied to an app. So we came up with a cash option, and we went out and we created a network of about 1,000 retail outlets, including all of the 7-Elevens, that said, here's an opportunity for you to go add cash to your GoPass wallet. And so that happened in 2018. The other thing that dawned on us in 2018, and unfortunately, it took a moment for this to dawn on us, but a lot of our low-income population in North Texas will pay more for services than any of the rest of us. They can't go to Sam's or Costco and buy toilet paper. Not that any of us can right now, but buy toilet paper in bulk. And so consequently, they pay more than the rest of us do. And that's true for transportation services as well. Many of your low-income people can't afford a monthly pass. A monthly pass, you're essentially paying for 16 days. You get the rest of the month for free. Low-income people are paying for their passes 1 day at a time because they couldn't afford the monthly pass or 16 days. So they paid for the entire month. So in 2018, we created a feature that if they were using the GoPass app, once you got to the 16th day, the rest of the month was free, just as if you had purchased a monthly pass. It's really it's unfortunate that, and this is true across the entire industry. So people really have started embracing what we call fare capping throughout the industry, whether it's through mobile apps like ours or whether it's through smart cards. And of course, now we've integrated the tap card, the smart card, all of those things. But the other important part of this app is tying the modes together. As I said, whether it be the the TNCs, Uber and Lyft, bikes, scooters, air taxis, all of those things, tying them all with buses and trains and allowing you as a consumer to make that decision. So stay tuned. This is an ongoing process, is an evolution. As the market continues to change, our app continues to change, but it already ties all of these things together. It already gives you this incredibly powerful tool to plan your trips. Over the next year, we'll be integrating traffic. So when it's always a little eerie. When I was driving to work, those days I'd get in my vehicle and it'd say, oh, it's 6:30 in the morning, you must be going to work, and it's going to take you 45 minutes. Wouldn't it be nice if I got that same message and it said, you can drive and it's going to take you 45 minutes, or you can take transit and it's going to take you 35 minutes. You can drive, and remember, driving is not only the price of gas, but here's the cost of driving and here's the cost of taking transit. Again, being an informed consumer allows us to start to make decisions the way we want to make them, and not based on what someone else has always thought we ought to be doing. So just up a minute and give you a little bit of an idea of who the agency is. So we've got about 650 buses that we put out, or typically we put out every morning, every evening. A little over 11,000 bus stops, 163 light rail vehicles, and yes, 93 miles of light rail. It is the longest light rail system in North America still, and I say that all the time, and many of you heard me say that before, because who would have thought in North Texas that we would have the longest light rail system? But it's because our consumers, our customers, the traveling public, have really demanded transportation choices. And many of you have been very instrumental in making that happen over the years. Of course, 35 miles of commuter rail, that's the TRE that we jointly operate with Trinity Metro and Fort Worth. 13 GoLink zones. Now, let me talk a minute about GoLink zones. What dawned on us, this is not a new concept, but allowing, the instantaneous response is the thing that technology allows us to do. There are certain areas within our service area where we don't have good bus service. In some cases, we don't have any bus service. But we do have some areas where maybe we had a bus that went every 60 minutes. Well, I can guarantee you the only person riding that bus is going to be the person that has to. Because if you miss it, you're waiting an hour before the next bus even shows up. So we took a lot of that out. And in these areas where we only had that one bus every hour, or where we didn't have any buses, we put an on-demand system. Toyota actually helped us pilot this up at Legacy a few years ago. And it was so successful that we then expanded it. And the way it works is that we said, okay, we're going to have vans. They're going to be in these 13 zones. And you go to the GoPass app. And if you're going into or out of the zone, or maybe you're just going from point to point in the zone, you can say, okay, I'm here and I want to go there. And the app, again, will tell you, here's your choice. And here are your choices. And you use GoLink, and it'll take you door to door within a zone, or it'll take you to the closest rail station, and then you can go beyond the zone. Well, that was great until it became popular. And remember, if we have a limited number of vans, and they're operating in a specific number of zones, when you start hitting the capacity of those vans to move people around, all of a sudden the metric that we had used, 10-minute response time, was no longer valid. So all of a sudden we were seeing our response times jump up to 15, 20, in some cases 40 minutes. We said, this isn't going to work. So we went out with a public procurement, and Uber Pool was actually the successful proposer. So now if you're in that zone, going to that zone, or coming out of that zone, the app will give you an option. Say, if you want, you can use GoLink, and it will take you to these places within the zone, point to point, or it'll take you to the closest rail station. Or maybe you're coming from outside the zone It'll take you, you can go to the rail station, it'll pick you up at that rail station and take you somewhere in the zone. And then it will ask you, you want to get in the van or do you want an Uber pool to come pick you up? So again, as a consumer, you get to make that decision. It will tell you the van is 12 minutes away, the Uber pool vehicle is 6 minutes away. So you get to make the decision how you want to travel. And that's how we really started integrating the different modes together. Of course, we also operate paratransit and van pool. I talked about taxis earlier and the capacity of the taxi industry right now, and we use taxis a lot in our paratransit services. We operate the streetcar that goes to Bishop Arts from downtown Dallas for the city of Dallas. And we also work with Trinity Metro in Fort Worth and Denton County Transportation Authority in Denton. And we continue to work with Uber, Lyft. Zipcar, not so much. They're one of those folks that have come and gone. But as we look to the future, I think there'll be something that replaces that car sharing opportunity. So if you kind of think about what does this look like as we look to the future, this is what a mobility hub might look like. And this is an actual location, although it doesn't look like this today. This is a Trinity Mills station in Carrollton. So you can see Bush Turnpike in the back. Of course, 35 would be to your left. And you've got the DCTA commuter train, light rail. You've got electric buses. You've got electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles. You have some air taxis thrown in there. Of course, we've got some bikes that no longer exist, scooters, and I think there's even a couple of on-demand strollers thrown in there somewhere. But this starts to pull everything together. So as a consumer, everything is together. Everything gives you, you go to one place and it gives you that opportunity to pick. That's really where we're going. But does that mean buses and I hear this a lot, buses and trains are obsolete. You don't need them anymore. Let me talk about that for a minute. Many of you have seen this slide. You've seen the two frames over, private vehicles, the 40 private vehicles, 40 people at a traffic light. And then the last slide to the right, all those same people fit on one bus. Which one's the most efficient? Certainly the bus. Now, if you say, okay, Uber and Lyft, you don't have 40 people anymore. You probably have at least 80 people. But that's for the purposes of the slide. You still have 40 people. Automated vehicles. Someone said, well, automated vehicles are going to solve our problem. Well, no, you may be able to squinch those cars up some at the light or those vehicles, but you're still going to have 40 vehicles. As a matter of fact, as Michael Morris at COG has said before, it might be the first time in history that the average occupancy rate of a vehicle goes below 1 when we have automated vehicles. So it's something to think about. We're going to have empty vehicles now. They're going to be running around. Does that solve congestion? Absolutely not. It will not solve congestion. It may change the way we own our vehicles. So it may change car ownership, but it's not going to solve congestion. So buses, trains, vehicles that carry large amounts of people, certainly today with appropriate social distancing, but large amounts of people is still going to be a necessity as we move forward, even with our new normal. The Silver Line is one of those projects that really speaks to how we move people. Oftentimes when you look at our rail map, and many of you have seen it, it's a hub and spoke system all coming into downtown. And people will say, Gary, why don't you have a crosstown corridor that goes across? And the Silver Line is that crosstown corridor. As a matter of fact, we showed it on our original map in 1983. The funny thing is that it really only went from Carrollton to Richardson at the time, and it didn't fully appreciate the value of going to DFW Airport. In about 1989, we bought this rail corridor. We bought it all the way from the stockyards in Fort Worth to Wiley on the east side. As you know, TexRail is the project on the east side that runs on those tracks from downtown Fort Worth into Terminal B at the airport. So our Silver Line is really the eastern extension of that project. Many of you are probably working on this project. It's a large project. going through several cities, and this gives us at a glance what the project looks like. Generally, we anticipate that by 2040 we'll have 11,000, little over 11,000 riders. There's 210,000 jobs within a half mile of this corridor. We anticipate, and currently still anticipate, opening this in 2022. We anticipate 10 regional rail stations. It'll take 58 minutes to get from Shiloh Road on the far east side over to DFW Airport. It's 26 miles long through 7 cities. And it's actually a little bit more than the $1.135 billion because we did tracking, so it bumped it up to about 1.2, just over 1.2 billion as far as the total cost of the project. You can see where the ridership is. You can see the schedule and just how some of this comes together. But this really starts to connect across the corridor. And while there's certainly some high points along the corridor, DFW Airport is important, no doubt about it. Big cities all have airport connections. UTD is really, really focused on the ridership in the station at the UTD location. City Line, State Farm is another location where this is going to become very important. So all along the corridor, 12th Street Station in Plano, downtown Carrollton, everybody's already anticipating what this looks like. And of course, Addison had the Addison Circle. They always said we had transit-oriented development without the transit, long before transit got there. So it really starts to pull things together. But the exciting thing about this project is beyond all of that. It's the ability to get people across the entire corridor. Again, the airport's important, but most people on this corridor are going to be able to go from end to end or side to side of our metropolitan area and not necessarily go to the airport. Most people are going to use this system to get to jobs, to get to school, those kinds of trips. The airport's kind of that added bonus, if you will. This gives you the general idea, again, where that corridor goes. As it goes across from DFW Airport, there's a station there. DFW North, just north of the airport, Cypress Waters. Then we go into a station in downtown Carrollton. Addison, Knoll Trail, and someone said, well, Gary, why are you putting an Addison station and Knoll Trail station? I mean, they're very close. They're very close, but they're separated by the toll road. And so as we all know, sometimes those kinds of road infrastructure projects tend to create very different communities on either side of it. So we think that's certainly the case here. If we continue to the east, you have UT Dallas, I mentioned that, City Line Bush, 12th Street in Plano, and Shiloh Road in Plano. So that's the project as it stands right now. I'd be happy to answer some questions, and if there are any. You can see the vehicle. It's essentially the same vehicle that TexRail is running now. It'll be manufactured by Stadler out of Switzerland. The other large project, the capital project that we're working on, again, that many of you are probably involved with, is the D2 project, second alignment in downtown. And as we know, as I said earlier, most of our system is hub and spoke, which is great. It all comes into downtown, but then it all goes through a single corridor through downtown. And if anything happens on that corridor, and you've heard me say this before, inevitably it will. Inevitably there'll be a fire or something that happens on that corridor. The firemen lay their hoses across the tracks. They don't want us to run trains across those hoses as they're fighting the fire. And all of a sudden, everybody appreciates how many people are waiting on the train, how many people are going to be carried by the train as we move forward. This project is about a $1.4 billion project. It was targeted for 2024, but because of some of the challenges associated with how we get past 345, and we don't have a position on 345, up at grade, below grade, whatever it is, but we've got to get that decided. And that's probably going to push the project to 2025 based on normal conditions, not certainly dealing with the coronavirus as we are now. And that may change things, and I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. But you can. It's only a 2-mile long project. Again, at 1.4 billion, but it goes underground. So as you come down the Green Line at Victory Station, we'll turn left. We'll go down Houston, and then when we get to Woodall Rogers, we actually go underground. And then we go underground. We make a left at Commerce, and then we go through downtown on Commerce essentially, and then we tie back into the Deep Ellum station on the east side. And as you know, along that way, along that journey, we cross 345, and so we're working very closely with TxDOT on what that looks like. This gives you a little bit better perspective of where the stations are. We've got one at the Perot Museum, Museum Way Station, one Metro Center, which is where we cross the existing corridor near the West End Transfer Center. We have a station at Commerce, which really serves the AT&T Center. And if you've seen that new plaza, it's pretty spectacular. And then the CBD East station before we tie back into the Green Line on the Deep Ellum side. So that brings us to today. COVID-19 and the impact on DART. And, this is something that none of us really prepared for. That doesn't mean we weren't prepared, but it's something that's really hard to anticipate. In our world, I mean, we have plans. We have our emergency operations plan, or our COOP, our continuity of operations. We have our administrative policy that speaks to public health emergencies, and coincidentally, I just signed that policy in February of this year. And then we have our system security and emergency preparedness plan. And that's the one that's required by the Federal Transit Administration and administered by the state of Texas. So we have these 3 plans, and each one of them has a little bit different take on what we ought to be doing and how we ought to be reacting. They don't conflict necessarily, but they intertwine and overlap as far as what our chain of command is. But as we started thinking through this, and I made a presentation to the board back on March 10th, and I talked about the risks. And so this was almost a month ago now. We talked about the risks to our system, and employees was certainly at the top of the list. Business closures, school closures. This is before schools have closed. As I said, the availability of our workforce, the availability of supplies and materials, loss of ridership, loss of revenue, utilities. Are we going to continue to have electricity to run our trains? We're entering into the springtime, severe weather. What happens if we have a severe weather event on top of what's going on now? And then the other part that we're all aware of is that DART is an essential service as defined by the state of Texas. And so we have to continue to operate trains and buses to get people to the hospitals. Every day we're carrying around 1,400 people on TRE. Most of those people are getting off at the medical market station, which means most of them are going to the Parkland Hospital District area to get to a job. People are still riding the trains to get to their jobs, to get to the hospital, to get to the grocery store, to get to those essential places that they need to continue to do what they need to do every day. So that means that we need to continue to have bus operators and rail operators and mechanics and all the people that continue to do what we do. So then you have to really very methodically go through a process on how you deal with each one of these. And as you know, this ecosystem, this environment that we're in changes not daily in some cases, but hourly. And how are we dealing with it? And some of the things that we did very early on is certainly identify our risks. And then we started moving people off site. Our IT department was very, very busy and still are, but providing those resources. Not everybody had a laptop. Not everybody had a Wi-Fi. Maybe they needed a hotspot to allow them to work from a remote location. But it was number one, it was setting people up so they could work from those remote locations if they could. And then the second step was how do we protect those employees that cannot work from remote locations? So you start thinking about rear door boarding. Most of our buses can actually have rear doors, and you can board from the rear doors, and that's a start to be able to keep the customers from getting close to the operators. Now, that said, if they have to go to the front to pay fares and put money in the fare box, that doesn't work too well. So we said, look, we're not going to enforce fares, but we're not going to say free fares either, because that still gives us the ability to move people off trains or buses if there's an issue with whatever that issue may be. So we started doing that, and then as time went on, as we looked at that social distancing, if you will, and we were still running full service up until this Monday, the 6th of April. So the good news is that provided some normalcy for our folks, but it also provided for good social distancing. But then as ridership continued to decline, we went to a Saturday, modified Saturday service on April the 6th. And then we also started thinking about how we could better separate the customers from our operator. And many of you know, we actually have doors on the operator space, and we've asked our operators to close those. We've actually put physical barriers to keep people behind the operator so they can't walk to the front. And now, of course, we've asked all of our, and provided masks, and asked all of our operators to wear masks. The next step is to start asking our customers to wear masks, and we'll do that very shortly. There are some systems around the country that say you can't ride the bus or the train unless you have a mask on. We won't stop and pick you up unless you have that mask on. And so, you know, we're looking at least initially encouraging people to wear a mask on our trains and buses. So as we think about that, you know, again, it's how do we provide that environment for our employees who don't have a choice. They have to be out there to drive that bus, to drive that train, to put them in the absolute best position possible. The other big step that we took early on was cleaning our trains and buses. And initially it was interesting, because initially we said, well, we're going to do this, and we're going to clean them midday, we're going to clean them at night, and we're going to clean the buses midday also, and we're going to try to clean trains once a week. And pretty quickly, I mean, within a few days of saying that, and that was the beginning of March, we realized that, number one, we weren't really sure what was happening, and we needed to get a good grip on actually what was being done. And number two, our vocabulary was inconsistent. So things that we would say, cleaning, deep cleaning, high touch points, what did all that really mean? And if we're going to communicate that to our employees and to our customers, we have to be very, very clear on exactly what that means. And so within a short amount of time, we got to that point. We said, we're going to deep clean our buses every night. We're going to clean them in the midday. On the trains, we're going to clean the trains every night. And then at the end of the terminus stations, at the end of each line, we're going to have people that wipe down those high touch points. And then on the weekends, we really get in and we really give trains and buses a really deep cleaning. As you might imagine, there's all kinds of technology that's emerging, some of it real, some of it not so real. But it's giving us some options as far as how we clean, ways to clean, ways to make sure that we clean better. We have a lot of our employees who volunteer to come in on the weekend and help clean now. Our commitment has been to make sure that we get our employees through this. As we know that as some people become exposed, they need to be gone for 14 days, hopefully work from home, but they might not be able to. How do we make sure that they're paid through that 14-day period? We've got certainly some employees who have tested positive now. And so how can we support them, and how can we support their families? So those are the kinds of things that we're really dealing with. How do we maintain morale? How do you avoid COVID fatigue, if you will? We talked a lot about that this morning at our team meeting. We have a conference call or a Microsoft team call every morning at 7:30, where we can talk about all the things that are impacting us and how do we deal with those. That's important. It's critically important that we deal with the day-to-day things. But as critically important is how do we start to prepare for the other side of this? And it's not going to last forever. We know that. We don't know how long it's going to last, but it's not going to last forever. So how do we start to prepare ourselves for that next step? How do we prepare the agency? It kind of makes full circle back now to mobility as a service and putting ourselves in the exact right position as we come out of this to make sure that we're providing those choices, those mobility choices to our customers, to the North Texas region, to serve their needs, because people are going to work different. They're going to travel different. They're going to behave different. We all know that. They're not going to want to be on a crowded train, certainly, for some time after this, or a crowded bus. So it's incumbent on us to really think hard about what those next steps are. How do we do that? How do we prepare for that? And so we've started that process. We've got a great team. They're doing a great job, and just thank each and every one of them and appreciate what they do. And that's all I got for today, and happy to answer any questions.
Hi, Gary. Thank you so much for agreeing to come speak to us today. I've got a question for you about the population density. Do you expect an increase in population density along the corridor, and will there be additional stations if this area grows?
So, population density is something that we certainly have seen over time. When we first opened the light rail in 1996, one of the things that we talked about was transit-oriented development, and that really spoke to the density along the corridor. So Mockingbird Station is a great example. It didn't exist when we first opened the light rail system. It was a cable cutting facility for Southwestern Bell. And of course, that was really the hallmark project, a TOD project in the Southwestern United States. But it opened everybody's eyes to the fact that this isn't just about transportation. It's about regenerating entire communities. Now, the balance, of course, is to make sure that you don't gentrify a community beyond what it really wants to be. And that's a danger as you look at our especially the more urban parts of our community, and people that have lived in a particular community for 40, 50, 60 years, all of a sudden end up being pushed out. So those are the kinds of balances that we have to look at from a societal perspective. But I think you have, and you will continue to see a lot more dense areas around the stations. The challenge with adding a station, of course, is that it slows the trip down. Now we are actually doing exactly that on the Orange Line right now at the Hidden Ridge, or the old Verizon headquarters location, KDC, and again, some of you may be involved in this, Pioneer's headquarters building developed by KDC, and we're actually doing an insert station at the Hidden Ridge location in Irving on the Orange Line. So it'll slow that trip from downtown Dallas to the airport a little bit by literally 3 or 4 minutes. But so you'll see some of that. The Lake Highland station was another infill station for some different reasons. But you'll start to see more and more density. The suburbs have got it. I mean, look at City Line, what Richardson's doing, what Plano, what downtown Garland is doing, downtown Carrollton. Dallas has really been a little bit slow to the table, but I was very encouraged by their TOD conversation not too long ago at their committee meeting, where they really did start to challenge us and challenge themselves on how they could do better taking advantage of the stations in the city of Dallas.
Gary, I have a question. If you hear me okay. I was wondering if any of the DART projects that either you spoke to or some that you did not speak to, could any of them benefit from infrastructure funding in the future that may be intended to revitalize the economy?
You know, of course, the Silver Line is already underway. Some of you might remember the Orange Line. It was going to DFW Airport during the ARA stimulus bill back in 2010, I believe it was, or 11. We had actually started that project, but we'd only started it by like a few weeks, and it was deemed shovel ready. And we were able to be one of the very first projects to receive stimulus money at that moment in time. So part of it is luck, but part of it is anticipating that there might be a fourth CARES Act bill that provides some stimulus, that provides some funding for shovel-ready projects. D2 could be a project that would benefit from that, depending on when it happens. The Hidden Ridge project, the contractor is really just now mobilizing and getting their training in place for that project. So it's very, very early on in the project. That might be one that we could benefit as well. So we will look for those opportunities. The challenge for us is we have a 20-year financial plan, and that 20-year financial plan really dictates what we do and when we can afford it. What we would look for are projects within that financial plan, not adding new projects, but projects that are already in that financial plan that we can maybe move up. As we know, when you have a big capital project and you move it out, while you may save money this year, next year, which might be the most important thing, it will cost you money because inflation will certainly overrun those savings that you have on the front end of a project. So bringing projects forward not only put the economy, bring the economy back quicker, put people to work quicker, but it also is a less expensive way to do projects. So hopefully we'll be watching very closely, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of some funding.
Thank you.
Gary, one more question. Do you see any of this COVID-19 situation? Is it going to delay any projects that were scheduled to go out for bid or RFQ?
You know, it's hard to tell right now. Certainly our board is going to be looking at it. Like I said, what we do know is things will be different. This is at least a 30-month process as we look at our financial situation. And so we will look at all of the projects. Most of our projects in our capital projects list right now, if they have not started, are state of good repair projects. In the past, our board has really identified 3 priority areas in this order. One is maintain what we have. Do not let what we've already built fall into a state of disrepair. We've seen that happen other places around the country. It's not pretty, and it takes them a while to dig out of that hole that they've built. The second thing normally is preservation of service. And the third thing is maintaining the workforce and maintaining the knowledge base within our workforce. This circumstance is probably just a little bit different in that state of good repair is probably still our priority. But right now, probably preservation of workforce goes to number 2 because preservation of service is not the deal right now. Our ridership has dropped somewhere in the neighborhood of 65. As I said, nationwide, it's in the 70% range, and we're not any different. We're in that 50, not 55 anymore, but 60 to 70% below where we typically are. So as we look to the future, we've got to figure out how to balance that. We anticipate our sales tax revenue, which is the primary source of revenue, will be down substantially. So are there some large projects that maybe we push out a couple of years that might save us some money on the short term, but they'll cost us money in the long run? Those are the kinds of things the board's going to have to weigh over the next few months to see where we go. But the good news is most of our projects are state of good repair. There's a couple big ones that I'm sure everybody's familiar with that we'll be watching very closely to see if there's some stimulus money or if there's a way we can pull those not push those back or not push them back very far to make sure that we continue to take advantage of the low interest rates that we see today. You know, it's been a pleasure doing this today. Again, it was different. It was different for me. I'm talking to this little camera, and I know there's a lot of people out there behind the camera, but I certainly appreciate the opportunity. I hope everybody stays very safe, and we'll get through all of this, and it'll change things, change the way we work, the way we travel, the way we communicate. But I'm confident that it'll be all for the better. And again, thanks for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate you guys.
Gary, we want to thank you for being willing to speak to us today and all that you do to help DART. While this isn't a normal presentation or presentation mode that we do at our branch meetings, thank you for being willing to work with us and being accommodating to this method. This month, there will be no technical seminar speakers. We're working with the institutes each month to determine if they're still meeting. Next month's meeting will more than likely be another virtual meeting, so keep watching your email and the Dallas Branch social media platforms for updates. The meeting is scheduled for May 11th. You should see a link in the description below which will take you to a Google form. This is how you will know how to send or who to send the PDH certificates to. On the form, there's a code that you will need to type in to receive the certificate. The code is Silverline. If you have any trouble with it, please let us know at info@dallasasce.org or in any of our social media platforms. Again, the code is Silverline. In this form, you'll put your name, email, as well as a little bit other description so that we'll know who to send the PDH certificate to. With that, you should receive it in about a week. If you have any additional questions you want to ask our speaker today, please put those in the comments section and we'll send those to him and send out the responses back to you. In the end, I couldn't do this on my own. It's a team effort. And thanks to all of those who helped put this meeting on. Thanks for attending the first virtual Dallas Branch meeting, and I hope you have a great week. With that, I want to adjourn the meeting. Thanks for joining us.